Joining me now is the Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe. Rupert, you heard that seems a little bit stubborn in my view. If somebody shares the same view as you, irrespective of what party you're in, you would think that perhaps Daisy Cooper might be prepared to agree and share a platform with Nigel Farage on that one issue.
Well, it's a very interesting one, Nana, because when we were in the European Parliament at the Brexit Party, the Lib Dems wouldn't even share a car with us from the station. So it shows you that they're fairly narrow-minded when it comes to cooperating across party. So I'm not sure we could cooperate with the Lib Dems. Half the time, I don't think they know what they want. In one word, does the electoral system need reforming? Yes. Do we necessarily want it to be reformed now? I'm not sure, because we've broken into Parliament with 5 MPs, which is a huge achievement, really. And I think the country is in such a mess, Nana. We've got councils of feral. We've got the two-party system, which has grown out of the first past the post situation. And as I've said in the past, Labour sort of either hand power to the Tories and say, your turn to play with the toy set, or the Tories hand power to Labour and say, it's your turn to play with the toy set. Meanwhile, the ultimate power is the civil service behind them, which has grown like a weed. And that's been replicated across all the local councils. So you've ended up with this woke DEI culture, which is infecting Britain with a nasty virus. And as a result of that, you know, we've got these 9 million people not working actually on benefits. You know, and the country is in dire straits. So in a way, having broken into Parliament, I'm pretty sure we're going to win the next election if we get the party structured right, if we get the correct candidates, which we're busy working on. We've got our conference next Friday, so we're going to be discussing and announcing how we're going to restructure the party. So for me, I think the job of effectively Hercules performing his 5th Labour, which was the Augean stables. I mean, there's a lot of muck to be cleared out of both local and national government. And I think if we win in a first past the post system, which I think we can, because I think we're going to do to Labour what we did to the Tories last time, because both parties are frankly not fit to govern. So, and then we have the power to change things. But once we're in power, would we conceptually support PR? Very definitely, but not, I think, initially. Initially, we need the power to be able to make change.
But that seems a bit... Look, first of all, it's unlikely the Labour Party would ever consider such a thing, because they are sitting on a nice big majority of, I think, 158 seats. So they've got a big majority there. But Reform UK got 14% of the overall vote and only 0.77% of the seats. Labour got 34% of the vote and 63% of the seats. And the Liberal Democrats, well, of course, they got 3.5 million votes, whereas you got 4 million. But yet they have, what's it, 70 or 71 seats? That's
I think it was 72
seats, and you've only got 5.
We got 4.1 million votes, and we got 5 MPs. So, but we came very close in a lot of constituencies. So all it will take is a sort of a continuance of the British people effectively the penny dropping and them realising they're not being well governed. And I still think there's a heart to the country. I'm not sure whether London is actually now rescuable. I think London has become almost a sort of a failing nation state on its own. But the rest of the country certainly still has the basis of common sense and decency, which has always run through this country, which has been destroyed largely by mass, uncontrolled legal and illegal immigration. But, you know, being in Great Yarmouth for the last 2 days, you sort of see how local government is not serving them well, national government's not serving them well. And I think the people in power need to remember that it's the public who votes them in, and it's the public that ultimately pays their wages. And I think a lot of the time, both central government and local government loses sight of that fact. And the COVID crisis was used to effectively oppress most people in the country. I think bad decisions were made. It strengthened the power of the state. And, you know, in 1997, the state accounted for 32% of GDP. It now accounts for 46% of GDP. That's probably a very conservative figure, because it doesn't include a lot of the indirect sort of GDP, which government now accounts for as well. But That is not a desirable nor indeed a sustainable situation. So, as I say, we need the Reform Party performing the act of Hercules in his fifth labour and cleaning out the Augean stables.
Well, look, I mean, I hear you, and that's very laudable that you would rather sort of get into power using the first past the post, and then when you're in power, you said that you'd consider changing it. But what about for the British public and the electorate, who may see this as quite undemocratic, watching the Labour Party just making up committees, for example? They've come up with a committee so they can then determine who can have a second job or not, sounds like what's going to happen. None of you are in that committee. There's no reform person in that committee, and it seems to be full of people who would probably agree with the narrative that comes from the Labour Party. So, on this level, as a consumer watching this, a lot of people will be going, well, that's all very well, but you're not really representing the British people. You're coming up with policies that you're literally railroading in, and there's no effective opposition.
Well, I think it's quite extraordinary that we are not represented on any select committees. I mean, Lee Anderson, as you probably saw in the past, did some great work on the select committee he was on. And, you know, with the experience we've got, you know, I'm 66, I've got experience in lots of businesses, including farming, insurance, business across the sector. And Labour have got, you know, 21, 22, 23-year-old MPs who arguably have got a chance of being on a select committee, whereas people with experience haven't, which again, as you quite rightly say, shows up how deficient government is. And I can tell you, in Parliament, I'm of adequate intelligence, and I've sort of managed to survive 66 years reasonably successfully. But trying to actually work out what's going on in Parliament is extremely difficult because it mutates like the AIDS virus on a daily basis, and you never quite know what you're going to be discussing or what's going to be happening. And again, I think that is the way in which this two-party system that has grown up has managed to keep control of what's going on. But, you know, now we're in there, we are getting to grips with it. We are landing some punches, and we're going to continue to do that. We are going to go on exposing the deficiencies of the entire system, and that goes for local and national government.
Yeah. All right, Rupert, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That's Rupert Lowe, MP for Reform UK in Great Yarmouth.